Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Virtus here, and welcome to my live stream. First and foremost, I just wanted to make sure that everyone can hear me and they can hear what I'm saying before we do start going on with this course, or this class, or live stream, whatever it is that you want to call it. So having said that, just go ahead and give me a little thumbs up there in the chat and then we'll get started. So, without further ado, let's just sort of wait out for that. Let's see who can be the first one to... Okay, there we go. So we got our first thumbs up. People can hear us loud and clear. Let's go ahead and dive into Unreal Engine 4. Unreal Engine 5 even. I know that it's going to get a little bit of it's going to take a little bit to get used to actually saying Unreal Engine 5 instead of Unreal Engine 4 there. So really excited to get into this. So for those of you that haven't seen Unreal Engine 5 already, this is the interface, this is what it looks like. And a lot of you are going to be very familiar with this because a lot of the features, probably about 99% of them, are going to be exactly the same as Unreal Engine 4. Really exciting. So pretty much anyone can pick this up at this point. So that's something that is really awesome. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing in this live stream. In this live stream, we are going to be taking Unreal Engine 5 and we are going to be building our very own environment. And we're going to be making the most of some of the Megascans assets that we've got available to us. We're going to be making the most of some Lumin lighting. We're going to be taking and looking at some Nanite geometry as well to really give ourselves something that is going to look absolutely awesome. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create myself a brand new level. So I'm going to go up to File, New Level, and I'm going to create a new level in the exact same way that I would do as if I was doing it in Unreal Engine 4. Sweet. So, having said that, let's go ahead and get a little bit of inspiration for our scene. Now, what I want to do is something a little bit similar to what you guys have seen in the thumbnail for this, which is a bit of a forest environment, and there were some creatures and that kind of stuff. And it was also a bit of a nighttime scene, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So having said that, before we start adding any assets in, let's do a very quick lighting test to see exactly what it is that Lumin can do. So having said that, I'm just going to take my ground here and I am just going to expand this so it is a little bit bigger, just like that. So a little bit bigger that way, a little bit bigger that way. Awesome. With that being done, I can now start taking my light source, wherever that might be, and I'm just going to turn the intensity of this down to something like 0.5 to make this a little bit darker. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to search for my post-processing volume. If I haven't got one already, what I can do is I can go up to the top here and just create one. And notice all of the create stuff is all now in this little drop-down menu instead of having that whole panel there that used to just frankly get in your way. So I'm going to go down to create, volumes, and then I am going to look for my post-processing volume, and don't forget you can also search and type in here as well, so volumes, post-process, and then just choose the option that we want there. Awesome. Then going to make this nice and big, and the way I'm going to do this is by searching for my setting, and that's the wrong volume there, so I'm going to go to create, post-process volume, so post-process. So if you can't see it, just make sure you add it. Myself right now, I have got a really big microphone in the way here, so I'm actually just going to add that in there. Awesome. And now I'm going to set this to infinite extent so it hits everything. What I am going to do is, first things first, I'm going to turn my auto exposure off because frankly I just do not want it to be adjusting the lighting. I need to see exactly what it is that I am working with over here. Awesome. With that being done, let's go ahead and make sure we enable our Lumin. So we're going to type in Lumin into the settings here. We're going to set our method to Lumin. And then we're also going to turn on our Lumin global illumination and our indirect lighting color. Awesome. And then we're also going to enable the settings, pretty much all of these different settings here that we've got available to us. With that being done, let's go ahead and take a look at seeing exactly what it is that that Lumin can do. So what I'm going to do is just right click in my content browser here, and I'm just going to very quickly create a material and give this the name emissive. Now, once that's opened up, I can bring this onto my scene, and I'm just going to add a little bit of brightness to this material so that we can see what Lumin is going to do. So I'm going to set this value to something like 50, and then 5 and 5, so we've got a nice bright red light here. If I then go through and create myself a shape of the type sphere here, I'm going to apply this to my sphere, and then notice as I bring this down to the ground, we're actually receiving light on the ground from my emissive material. And that is just one of the many things that Lumin is going to be able to do for us. That's super, super exciting. And if I was to go into this material and turn this value up to something even higher, like 250, and then apply these changes and go back in, notice just how much of an effect it is going to have on our scene here. And with some really nice nighttime scenes or dark scenes, we're going to be able to see that we can essentially allow Unreal Engine to light itself. We don't have to start adding point lights and rectangle lights because our emissives can actually do that. So if we have like a bulb material, we can have the bulb illuminate the scene. If we've got lights and they're bright, we can now make that do that kind of stuff as well. Awesome. That's really nice. So that's a nice little feature there of Lumin. You've also got some indirect lighting stuff as well, which we're going to take a look at very soon. But for now, I just wanted to show you exactly what it is that Lumin is able to do for our scenes. Awesome. Let's take a look at where we're going to be getting our assets from. And all of this is going to be from the Megascans library. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go over to my content, and I'm going to go down to Qixel Bridge. Qixel Bridge is essentially our way to bridge that gap between Megascans assets and bring them into Unreal Engine 5. Instead of having to download them and import them and do all of that kind of stuff, now we can actually just open up that Qixel Bridge interface and we can start accessing it all directly. Now notice it might take a moment or two for this to load up. Sometimes with the new features of Unreal Engine, because they're quite new, they're not entirely optimized just yet. So give this a couple of seconds and it will get going. So in the meantime, while this is loading up, let's go ahead and take a look at answering some of the questions that we've got going on in the comments here. So one question is it enabled by default? I assume that is relating to Lumin. Unfortunately, Lumin is not something that is going to be enabled by default. You need to go into your post-processing volume, like I just showed you, to turn that on and start using that. That's a nice little question there. Also, if you want to download Unreal Engine 5, I can see that is a question that is popping up a lot as well. Go over to your Epic Games launcher. There is an UE5 tab. Jump into that, download it, and have some fun. But for now, our Qixel Bridge is open. And honestly, this is one of my favorite additions to Unreal Engine. So let's take a look and see what we can do inside of this Qixel Bridge. So we can do some very interesting things. We can go in and we can search for content. So if we go for this little web icon here, we can then go to 3D assets or 3D plants, surfaces, decals, imperfections. We can grab all of these, and all of these are available to us for free, which is really awesome. So having said that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to I can go to my assets and search for individual assets from like our nature collection, for example. And I can take things like rocks or boulders, and I can start grabbing these and bringing them into our scene, which is really, really interesting. If I go to the Home tab, what I can also see is we've also got a few other options that we can take a look in here for, such as collections, which allow us to find groups of assets and actors and stuff that we can use. We can even grab things like this, for example, where we've got all of these rock formations and scenes that all work from here, which is really, really nice. We can even go in and we can start searching for materials if that's something that we wanted to do as well. So let's start working with some assets and get started with building our scene. So we could go for a forest environment or we could go for a rock environment. It's entirely up to you. So what do you guys want to see? I'll let you guys make the decision. Do I make something like the Unreal Engine 5 tech demo, or do I make something in the forest with some very moody lighting? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And the more comments for either of those options, I'll make those ones. I'll make that. But just know that we have got lots of different assets here that we can use. So either one of those is going to be just fine. So let me know what you guys think. Forest. Okay, the first answer there is forest. Second answer is forest. Forest, forest, forest. Okay, awesome. I think that is gonna be everything. So in terms of that then, let's go ahead and start making our forest. The first thing that I'm gonna do then is just go ahead and find myself a nice little surface that we can use for the forest ground. So what I want is some like nice mossy grass or something like that. So I can go through all of these collections here of surfaces, and I can go down until I find something like ground or moss. And let's just go ahead and use this moss stuff. And it might be that I want to use this as my texture. So what I'm going to do is just very quickly sign into this so that I can use this. So I'm just going to sign in, 2 seconds there. Quick question there about whether or not you can use marketplace assets. Yes, you can. You can use Unreal Engine 4 marketplace assets on here. The plugins, they don't work, but the assets, for the most part, the majority of them are going to work for you. Okay, so I'm just trying to sign in here. I'm just having a little bit of difficulty. 2 seconds. Always happens on the live streams. So let's go ahead and do this. So sign in with Google or Facebook. It doesn't really matter which one, does it? So sign in with Epic Games. Here we go. Let's take a look at this. I'm just signing in now. Awesome. And 2-factor, because this is all nice and secure. Take a little look and go over to my email, and the reason why we do have to sign in here is Quixel has that they have their own sort of stuff, so you do need to log in with that. Awesome. So now that I've just signed in there, notice I've now got a big green download button. So I'm going to go ahead and download this. Give this a couple of seconds and I'm going to press add. And once I've done that, boom, it's in my project just like that. Really straightforwards. And what I could do is go over to my landscape mode and I could create a landscape. And what I'm going to do is just for now, I'm just going to apply this moss to it. So to do that, I'm just going to drag and drop it on there just like that. If that doesn't work, you're going to have to select your landscape, go down, choose your landscape material, and just go ahead and drop your moss in just like that. For now, this is going to be okay for me. So what I'm going to do then is just sort of take a look at some forest environments, take a look at the shape, just try and find myself some references to how I should make my environment look like. So I'm going to take a look at some forest environments here. And what I could do is I could sort of have some water there, which is quite nice. So I'm actually going to try and replicate that. So I'm going to take a shot here. I'm going to have my trees, I'm going to have some water, and I'm going to have some sloping landscapes there. So, going into this, what I'm going to do then is just go in, and I am just going to erode into my landscape. I'm going to turn my brush size down nice and low, and they have moved a couple of things in here. So I'm just looking for my brush size just down there, and I'm going to keep going here. And now with that being done, I'm just going to slowly erode into that landscape there. So what I should end up with is something that's going to look like this. That's quite nice, and I can start having my water coming out of that. If I want to make that a little bit smoother, then by all means I can do that too. It's very hardly noticeable, but it's definitely going to be there. Having said that, what I'm now going to do is actually just switch to my detail lighting so I can see this a little bit better. I'm then going to take my sculpting, and I'm actually just going to sculpt this side up a little bit. And to do that, I'm going to turn my brush size up a little bit here and just sculpt it up. And make sure I turn my tool strength down as well, because that was just way too much. So let's just start off over here. And there we are, and now we've got sort of some of that sloping stuff going on there, which is quite nice. So with that being done, the next thing that I'm going to need to add to my scene then is going to be a little bit of water. So let's do that, and with that we can use Unreal Engine 4's water tools. So to do that, I'm going to have to go to Edit, Plugins, and I'm going to have to search for my water. Make sure that this is enabled. What I might have to do is restart the engine, so I'm going to go ahead and save that there. Give this a couple of seconds, and we are going to be able to open this up again. So I am also reading the chats here, so if we get some really good questions, then I will be going through these. The reason I'm talking the way that I am, because I want you guys to be able to learn from this as well. So I'm treating it just like any other sort of class that I am teaching. Okay, let's take a look at some of these other questions here while this is all opened. Let's see. Okay. So I can see a lot of people here asking how to install Unreal Engine 5, which is quite interesting. Just make sure you head over to the Epic Games launcher, and I can show you what that looks like actually. And if you go over to the Unreal Engine 5 tab here, we can then go ahead and press the big Download Early Access button, and that is going to download Unreal Engine 5 for yourself. So a couple of people are asking what hardware am I running. I am currently running a Windows machine, of course. I've got an RTX 3060, and then in terms of RAM, I've got 32 gigabytes of RAM. My processor is a Threadripper 1950X, so I believe I've got 16 physical cores, I believe, or I'm not too sure on that one actually. Let me sort of check that one out, but my specs, I'll put them up on the screen. So over here, yes, 16 cores, but I've got 32 threads in total. I've got 32 gigs of RAM, and then I'm also using an RTX 3060 in this. So the processor is, you know, it's about sort of 2-3 years old now, so it's not the very best. But the graphics card is going to be very important. Opening up my level here now, what I can do is I can actually start creating my water. So let's go to create here, and then if I search for water, so water, let's see if anything pops up. No, so I'm just trying to see where we can find this. Let's open up this place actors panel, a bit like what we had before. And see if we can find that water. If not, what I might just have to do is just make it the good old-fashioned way. So let's go to all classes and search for water. Okay, awesome. And water river is the one that I'm after. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop this into my scene here. It's going to compile the shaders, which is going to take a moment, so don't worry about that sort of too much. I can see that up in the top left-hand corner there, which is going to take just a minute. So what I can do for now, just go into my detail lighting here, and I can start moving around some of these points. And it's been a little while since I've used all of this water stuff, so let's see if I can still sort of click on these points here, and then I can just sort of drag them around. So I'm actually just going to move this over here. And I've just got to find my landscape. So let's take a look at this. Our landscape is all the way over here. Maybe we should have made the river first before we started doing the landscape, because then we can see. But it's all a learning experience, isn't it? So I guess we're just going to have to wait for that to compile a little bit. While that's compiling the shaders, let's just go ahead and start getting some trees then. So I'm going to open up Qixel Bridge, and I'm going to search for trees. So let's go ahead and see what I can find. So search for trees, and we are going to be going into the 3D assets section here, and obviously we are going to be going into the nature section, and then the tree section, and then we have got our trunks here. We've got some fallen trees. They don't really have trees that have got leaves on it, just because they don't scan very well. But what we can do is we can start sort of getting a few different variations like this or this into our scene. Also, what we can use is the marketplace. We can use the Unreal Engine 4 marketplace and start adding assets into here. So we could see if there is any free trees or forest packs available to us. So let's just sort of go to free. Let's just go to free, permanently free. Let's see if there's anything in here that might have what we need. City Park Environment Collection. Oh, this looks nice. Let's go ahead and see if we can add this to our project. I know you can sort of create a project with them sometimes. No, okay, that's not going to work. That's not ideal. There will be some free stuff that we can use in here. Okay, so for now, what we'll do then, we'll just start taking some of these dead trees that we've got here and sort of make it look like a bit of a dead environment. So let's take this one here. I am going to take my prune tree. I'm going to download it. And then I'm just simply going to add this in a second, and I'm going to start bringing it into the scene using the Foliage tool. So there you go. Go ahead and press add. Awesome. That's been added. Okay. Let's open up our Foliage tool. And then what I'm going to do is simply just drag and drop my foliage in. So take that, add the foliage type in here. And then I'm just going to add a couple of these trees in. Notice that is way too dense right now. So I'm actually going to take this brush that I've got. Going to take my paint density, and I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. And notice as I added those in there that the light from this actor that I've got here is actually sort of looking very smooth, which I thought was quite a nice little touch. Awesome. So we've got some trees in there. They're looking very repetitive at the moment. So I'm actually going to press Ctrl Z a couple of times, and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to work on the scaling and set this to go from something like 0, it's from 1 to 1.3. And then my Z offset, I'm going to, no, that's placement, I don't want that. There should be a random rotation setting that I'm going to be able to have. So we could take a look at this. And some of these settings, they have got a little bit different here, which is quite interesting. So random yaw, is that the one that I'm after? I think that it is randomizing these now. That's perfect. Okay, so let's just sort of take my little ledge that I've got there and just put some trees either side, and I'm going to have the grass going through it. And of course, I've also got to get this to sort of go round here, all the way round to the side, because we need to sort of have like a limit to the bounds of my little trees that we've got over here. In the middle here, we're going to have our information going through this. When I say information, I just mean the river. I can see the trees. They are still not randomized enough, so I'm actually going to make this, make the randomization go all the way up to 1 to 2 instead, and then turn my paint density down to 0.5 instead. Not 0.5, 0.05 is the one that I meant there. I'm just going to paint those on, and I'm going to paint those on and just make sure I've got enough room here for my landscape and my river. Awesome. And it's going to follow this round, and we are going to be using fog and other stuff to sort of limit the distance of what you can really start to see in this scene. With that done, let's go back over to our landscape here and just start sort of increasing the sort of sizes around the edges over here. So take this and just sort of make it grow a little bit, because we want there to be sort of like that natural flow into the river here. Really, really nice. And what I love is just how well the foliage is responding with the landscape there, which is quite nice. And I can just sort of follow that around there. Really, really nice. Lovely. Okay, that is looking quite nice. What we're also now going to need is a few other bits of foliage. So I'm going to go back to my Qixel Bridge here, and I am going to search for some rocks. So search for rocks. What we've also got is some nice little mossy embankments. I might actually try that out, see how that looks. And I'm going to add this in, see how one of these looks. So give us a second. Mossy embankment. So I'm going to have to go back to my select mode over here. Notice I need to scale this all the way up, so I'm going to set this to something like 3 by 3 by 3. If this is still too small, then we could do something like 7 by 7 by 7. And there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Our embankments are looking nice. And if I wanted to, I can even make this bigger, like 15 by 15 by 15, and really start working on increasing this size here and sort of using this. And with this now, I've kind of got like trees coming out of my embankments, which is quite nice. And I'm just going to reuse this asset that I brought in from my mega scans and just sort of try and blend it in as best as I can here with the other assets that I've got. I'm going to fill up areas like that with some rocks to add a little bit of a transition in there. But for now, I'm actually really, really happy with just how nice some of these assets are looking from the Megascan stuff. So I think that should be going around like that. Looking really, really nice. And what I'm really liking about all of this is just how nice our little light here is looking in our scene. So let's take a look at our water body river. Let's see if we can get that set up as well. So with that, if we have our water, let's see if we can find this water lake. Let's see if we can put this into any of these. So we should realistically start to see a river sometime soon. Let's see if we can figure out why. Water body index, water height. Let's take a look. Alpha blend, minimum additive. Nope. Priority, set this to something like 1, maybe. Okay. Not working as well as I'd like. So what I'm actually going to do is maybe take the body island. See if that gives me anything. Maybe it's compiling the shaders. Not too sure there. If not, I know the ocean one generally tends to work. So we can give that a go and then just sort of put that below the height of what we're doing here. So compiling shaders in the top left hand corner, almost done there. So hopefully we should start to see some water coming into our scene. And then we can start adding rocks and all that good stuff around all of this. So it should pop up any second. And there we go. We can see we've got our water now. Let's just raise this up a bit, just to the level where we can start to see it. I can definitely see it in the background there. And I think, okay, awesome, cool. So we got the water there. So what I'm going to do now is go back to my landscape here. And I can start sculpting this. So I'm going to use my lovely little erosion tool here again. Turn my brush size down. And start eroding into this. And hopefully this should start going in and showing my water, which is not there. Let's make sure we get rid of this. How deep under the scene is it? So I can start to see it there ever so slightly. So it might be that I need to take this water and I need to bring this up just a little bit more. Maybe I can't control it that way, so I got to go through some of my scenes here. Or maybe I actually just need to take my landscape with this selected and move that down instead. Let's take a look at that as an option. So take my landscape, move it down. There we go. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too high. But at least we can start to see, we can begin getting our water in here, which is quite nice. So we know we need to take our location and we just need to start adjusting it until we get the kind of results that we're after. And with that, I'm pretty happy there. So I'm actually going to set it to something like 5 or 10, 15, 20, 30, because I want it to be quite low there. Awesome. Looking good. So now what I'm going to do is just keep taking this and I'm just going to keep eroding down here to start building my little river there, which is quite nice. Looking good. What I then might want to do is take things like my sky sphere, and I might want to start adjusting this to make it a bit more like the night sky, and hopefully it still adjusts with the directional light. So if I take my directional light and turn this into a bit of a nighttime scene here, nope, it doesn't automatically update there. So I'm going to take my lovely little sky sphere and adjust my sun height, see if I can pull it that way. So 0.1, let's see what that's going to look like. 0.1 or 0.9. Okay, it's not wanting it, but okay, so let's just go ahead and do this manually. So I'm just going to start changing my colors down here. Horizon color, it's going to pull this down to like the darker side. Cloud color, okay, that's fine. Overall color, let's just sort of bring that down to some of the darker colors there too. Awesome. With my light source, I might turn that off, see how that looks. No, okay, I'm going to have 0.1 there. I'm just trying to bring this towards like the nighttime kind of thing there. But hopefully, I mean, I know this isn't a scene that looks good. I'm trying to show you just how similar Unreal Engine is to Unreal Engine 5 is to what you're used to in Unreal Engine 4. What I'm going to do, start taking some more assets into here to make this look a little bit nicer. So, ooh, forest terrain. I wonder how that works. Let's go ahead and add one of those in. Sorry, I'm getting distracted there with all of the nice little assets that we've got available to us. So 3D assets and nature and rocks. And we're going to be going for mossy rocks. And we're going to be adding in stuff like this. Mossy boulders. And I'm just going to add that in. Okay. What does our landscapes look like? Our forest landscape look like? Okay, looks like that. Okay, not ideal. Anyway, so mossy rocks. What I'm going to do is take these rocks And I'm actually going to set this to something like 3 by 3 by 3. Make this nice and big here. And I'm just going to start placing these down my embankment. But I don't want to be doing this one by one, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go over to my foliage mode, and I'm going to put this in there. I'm going to deselect my trees, and I can just start painting on my rocks. And notice it's going to start compiling the shaders there as you do that, so don't worry sort of too much. If they're too small, which I can see they are there, select our rock. I'm going to select this rock, and I'm going to set my scaling to something like 5 to 10, so I can have some big old boulder boys. And then again, brush size, make this nice and small, so I got a little bit more control there. And now we've got some nice big mossy boulders. Might be a little bit too much on the big side there, so let's change this to something like 3.5, and boom, looking good. So what we're going to do is keep adjusting this until we find a value that we like. So I'm going to go 2 to 4. And there we go. We can start adding in a few little decorative assets there, just to sort of make this little valley of ours look a little bit more realistic. If you want to get rid of some of those, by all means, go ahead and do so. So I'm just going to add some of these little boulders all the way down the edge here. If there's some of these that sort of come in and they don't sort of place too well, then feel free to sort of go through and adjust that. But for now, I'm sort of really starting to like the way that all of this is looking. So, with that being said, we've got some assets in here. We got some trees and some big rocks and all of that good stuff. Let's take a look at making this look a little bit nicer now. So I'm going to take my post-processing volume, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to do just a little bit of color grading. Everyone loves a bit of color grading. First and foremost, bloom, gotta have some of that. And then what we're also going to have is, if we go down to our color grading and our white balance, let's go ahead and set a temperature on this to make this a nice sort of warm little scene there. Then we are going to take our highlights, and we're just going to sort of give this a bit of a gain, and with that gain we're actually going to give this, because this is our highlights, we're actually going to give this a bit of an orange kind of tone to it to make it feel like it's a little bit like nighttime. With my midtones, I might actually make this a little bit blue like this to add a little bit of contrast. I know this isn't the most realistic scene or sort of like the most beautiful, but again, I just want to show you how similar all of this is to Unreal Engine 4. So we've used Lumin, and we can see that we've got our lovely little sphere here, which is going to glow, and it's going to go through our trees there, which is quite nice. We've also used Megascans. Now let's take a look at some Nanite. So, going over to my Qixel Bridge, any one of these assets, like this boulder, or I could even find something like industrial, or let's take a look at some nature stuff actually, and let's take a look at a little seabed, for example. I could take something like that and start to see like the level of detail. So I'm going to take Thai beach coal, yes, and I'm going to set this to Nanite, which is going to turn it into Nanite. And then I'm going to make sure I open that, because I think it's just closed itself there. And I'm going to download that Nanite. And notice with this Nanite, it is actually going to take a little while to download, because Nanite files are quite big. And the reason Nanite files are quite big is because they sort of really focus on utilizing like the hard drives, rather than sort of really focusing on like the GPU. So let's take our Nanite. And then we are just going to take a look at this in our scene. And notice every time you add a piece of Nanite in here, it does have to wait for this to be ready, because it's got to be sort of transferred over to the hard drive for it all to be used. So let's actually just take this over here. It's probably on the small side there. So what I'm going to do is set my scale on this over to a nice little value. I'm going to set this to something like 5 by 5 by 5. And I can see my nanite really start to come to life there with some pretty incredible levels of detail. Maybe even bigger than that. Let's do 50 by 50 by 50. And no matter how much I scale this asset up by, it is still going to look really, really detailed. It's going to keep its shape. It's not going to look overly stretched. And that's just sort of the power of nanite. And you can access all of that nanite geometry using mega scans, which is honestly just lovely. So that's pretty much your nanite. And if I go ahead and open this up, and then I get nice and close in here, I can see my nanite geometry. You can't see nanite geometry on the normal sort of wireframe there, but if I was to go over to like my detail lighting, I can really start to see just how sort of depthy all of this stuff is going to be. And I really do wish I had one of the demos. I'm going to leave this environment here because I've shown you all the features now. Let's go ahead and open up something using nanite. I don't think I have it, but what I can show you is this, which is going to be very interesting. So that's pretty much nanite. What I want to do now then, just before I sort of end off the stream, is actually show you just how powerful Lumin is in terms of a very realistic environment. And the one that I'm going to be showing you is this ArcViz interior and all of that good stuff. So give us a couple of seconds to load up. And welcome to this ArcViz interior. Now, notice right now, it's very dark. Let's see if we can get another level open. I'm sure we've got one, so we're currently in the real time. So let's take a look at the light map, and boom, we've got our level here that is just being absolutely like blown away and absolutely lit up here. And what I could do is I could actually sort of start taking away some of these rectangle lights that we've got here on the window that would traditionally be used to sort of light a scene. And I could actually take the light source from the outside, and notice that the light source is hitting walls like this, and it's actually indirectly lighting up the rest of the scene here, which is quite nice. I do need to sort of build my lighting, so instead of doing that, what I'm actually going to do is just set my light to movable. And there we are. And notice now, if I take this light and I start moving it, it's going to start dynamically lighting up the rest of my scene there, which is quite nice. That's really, really awesome. And if I go ahead and press play, I can start walking around in this scene that is bright, and it hasn't really got any overly dark areas because it's actually just taking the light source that we've got outside there and just indirectly lighting the scene in the same way it would in the real world. Awesome. That's looking good. So let's take... So, okay, cool. Sorry, some guys were just sort of asking about how you can sort of view some of the nanite stuff. And there is sort of ways to go into that. I don't know sort of how. I think people are doing it in the comments there. But that is... that's pretty much it. So hopefully this video has been a really good introduction of how you can start world building inside of Unreal Engine 5, utilizing things like Lumin and Nanite and Mega Scans to really start bringing your scenes to life. You saw earlier there when I was building my environment, granted not the prettiest, I was very easily able to access assets from the Mega Scans library. I was also able to utilize the Lumin lighting to emit light from an emissive and to sort of really brighten up the scene. And lastly, in this demo that we've got here, we can see that we have been able to really bring our scene together using indirect lighting. Traditionally, this would be very dark, and I'll show you what this looks like actually, if we were to sort of just use traditional methods. So if I go to my post-processing volume and search for global illumination, if I was to set this to something like ray traced, you can see everything's just dark. And that's where you normally have to compensate with something like a skylight to sort of bring this together. Even our screen space here, it doesn't look that great because there just is no indirect lighting. But if I set this to Lumin, you can see it suddenly just pops there, which is really, really nice. So that's everything that I wanted to show you guys for the live stream. Thank you again for watching. I hope you've all had a really awesome day, and I can't wait to show you some more dedicated Unreal Engine 5 content as we start to create things like quick start guides and all of that good stuff. If you do have any questions about Unreal Engine 5 and what it can do, make sure you join our Discord, the link for which is in the description. That's discord.gg/Virtus. Over there you can meet other aspiring game developers just like yourself and ask all of those awesome questions about using Unreal Engine 5. You can even sort of meet a team, meet friends and build a team to start building your own games inside of Unreal Engine 5 as well. But for now guys, that is absolutely everything. Thank you again for watching. Stay awesome. Keep